Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Malts and Meeples, where, well, this is the penultimate list for the top 100 games of all time, 2022 edition, done by me. So, with all those caveats on there, it's a pretty safe list to assume that this is truly a top 100 list that you should pay attention to, or not at all, because I have played a lot of games in my life, but not a ton compared to a lot of other people. And obviously, on a list like this is my top 100 favorite games. And we're down to it. We're down to 20 through 11, which is great. I've had a lot of fun with it so far. And we have today a cider, mainly because it was in the fridge. And I don't really feel like an old fashioned tonight, so it says semi-dry cider. I would say it's semi-dry. It's not. I don't know. It kind of hits with a little bit of dry taste to it, which I like my ciders to be quite dry, just because I don't necessarily love a super sweet drink. Most ciders are way too sweet, and this one even has some of those too sweet notes for me on it. But yeah, that's that cough. And I have to show I got this in finally Spire's End Hildegard. I am so excited to get this to the table. If I have time on Wednesday, I might end up streaming that, or the original Spire's End. Eventually, I want to do some sort of stream of Spire's End Hildegard and then a quick comparison between the two. But that's not the point of this video. About ready to cough again. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to go through the next 10 on my top 100 games of all time. Like I said, 20 through 11. We're going to start off here with number 20 being Lords of Hellas. Lords of Hellas is a big game from Awaken Realms. All true, pure Awaken Realms, not Awaken Realms Light. Everything is quite big. This one, I want to say this was their second that they did, and it's a little rough around the edges, but in some ways, I think that is some of the charm with it, because you have so many different kind of mechanisms working together in this game and doing a lot of things that I find really fun, where you have some area control, but then you are also building up these statues, and you're trying to build temples, you're going on quests. Quests don't matter too much, but and then fighting giant monsters. You might be fighting other players, or you might be fighting giant monsters, and just all of those different things I think are a lot of fun. And one of the cool things about the game is that it gives you so many different ways to win, because you could take over 2 of the large territories, you could defeat 3 monsters, you could hold a location once the statue has been fully built for 3 turns. And at the end of the 3rd turn, if you hold it, and, well, really, whoever is holding it at the end of the 3rd turn, they win the game. And, or then if you hold 5 temples, I believe it is. So, 4 different ways to win the game, and all of them are very reasonable to do. The first time I played this game, we played a 5-player game. Don't necessarily recommend that. Probably best at 4. Maybe 3, but I think 4 would probably be the best. And each of us kind of had an idea of, okay, what direction are we going to go? And then we realized most of us had to flip it halfway through, or a few rounds in. We're like, well, we're getting powers and abilities that don't help us with that, but it's leading us in a different direction, which is cool. I like the fact that we were all able to do that, and most of us were within 2 turns of winning. But it's big, it's epic, it's a table hog. Great minis, ton of fun. Next up at number 19, we have Spire's End. Hey, I was just talking about Spire's End Hildegard. Forgot it was coming up this quickly, honestly. But Spire's End is a story-driven game with really cool artwork for it, very dark. This idea of a spire coming up through the earth, people disappearing from the town, and you are a group of heroes or just really people who are left trying to figure out what's going on, figure out if people disappeared into the tower, how to get them back. And I played it probably 5 times and I think I've made it to chapter 3 out of 4 before dying. So there's still a whole lot more to be explored in there. The dice combat works well, and I just like the story with it. Spire's End Hildegard, by the way, is a little bit different. The dice combat works a little differently. Dice challenges work a little differently. And the story tends to be lighter. Spire's End is definitely a dark story. But a ton of fun and good kind of choose your own adventure. Easy to play. You can play it 2-player. It's really kind of a solo game, so you can play it solo, have a really good time with it. Then at number 18, we have Paper Dungeons. If you watched, I did a full series on Paper Dungeons, playing through the whole campaign. Now, I love Paper Dungeons as a game. It has you dungeon delving, kind of racing to collect certain things, to level up your different characters as you go. The campaign itself is a little bit of story. It doesn't really matter at all for what's going on. There's nothing that continues between each time. You're just playing a separate new game each time. But I really like this one. It's a bigger, heavier roll and write game. And it gives you a bunch of different ways that you can try and win. Now, I do think that fairly often people are going to end up doing fairly similar things, but you can definitely try different strategies, and in a multiplayer game, there's even more racing for certain things. Racing for gems that are getting crossed off the board, racing for completing certain objectives, or getting the bonus for being able to deal the most damage to one of the bosses. It's a good, bigger game that's a lot of fun. And I say it's bigger, but it's still a very small package roll and write. So works well both ways, where if you want something that's small you can take along with you, it works nicely. But if you want those meatier decisions, definitely has those as well. At number 17, we have Ice Cool. Ice Cool, which has been in my top 100, and generally always around this range. This is a dumb little flicking game that I absolutely adore. You're flicking penguins through a penguin high school, hence Ice Cool, because they're cold and it's a school. And it's just a fun one that I've gotten fairly good at just because I've played it a lot. You can do cool things, like if you spin the penguins in such a way as you flick them, you can get them to go around multiple corners. You can potentially do a nice long shot and get through a couple doors at once. Things like that are a lot of fun. You can flick down on their head to have them hit and then pop up and jump over walls. So there's a ton of things that you can do with it. And it's a good one that works well for kids and adults. And compared to something like Pitch Car, which both of these I would say are pretty similar in terms of like the basics of them. They're very basic dexterity flicking games. But this one has a cool 3D board. And if you get Ice Cool 1 and 2, which this one encompasses both of them. I'm not going to put Ice Cool 2 on there. It's the exact same thing, except the orientation is slightly different of how the boards go together. So using all those boards, you can create one mega board and play 8 people, which is a blast. Then at number 16, we have Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. Now, I know for some people this one maybe would be a little bit lower because I believe it's Roll for the Galaxy, Race for the Galaxy, something like that, excuse me, has similar mechanics to it. I think there are a few different things that have kind of that mechanic of everybody picks an action and then you can do the actions that everybody has picked, but whatever one you pick, you get the bonus for. I just really like it, and I like the engine or tableau building as you build up throughout this game and trying to figure out how to get everything just to work and click. And once you're familiar with the game, you can actually play it fairly quickly. Plus, it adds in those moments of guessing where you're like, okay, now I want to build and I want to get more cards. But I think my opponent is going to pick build. So can I safely pick get more cards so that, yeah, I won't get the bonus, like a discount on building, whatever the bonus is. Pretty sure it's a discount. But that means that now I can guarantee we do getting the cards. Of course, maybe your opponent's thinking the same thing, and now both of you pick the same thing, both of you get the bonus for it, and you only have one action in that round, but there's no set limit to the number of rounds you have, so it's just a faster turn. The whole puzzle of the game I really enjoy, and from what I've seen of Terraforming Mars, it takes up a chunk of space, takes up a chunk of time. Ares Expedition, not necessarily so much faster, from what I can tell. A little bit faster, but definitely looks like it takes up less space. So that was number 16, I believe. Number 15, we have Hanamakoji. This one also has consistently stuck around my top 10. It is my favorite two-player only game. It's one of two games that I'll pull out. Oh, my nose is itching. That I will pull out at two players. But the other one technically can play more. Hanamakoji is purely a two-player game, and it is a tug of war as you're trying to win the favor of geisha by giving them gifts. What's clever with the game is each player has 4 total actions. And on your turn, you take one of those actions. Once you have taken that action, you can't use it again. So you can either put a card face down that you'll use as a gift. You can put 2 face down that you discard, won't be used as gifts at all. You can show your opponent 3 cards, and they pick one of them to put as a gift on their side. You put the other 2 as a gift on your side. And then the final one is you create 2 groups of 2 cards, and your opponent picks one of those groups, and you get the other to place on your respective sides. The game is super fast, but very thinky, and one of the cool things that I really enjoy about it is fairly often you're trying to make your opponent make a decision for you. So, for example, I'm playing down, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I'm playing down some cards where I'm like, I don't know which one of these I can win, so I'm holding back a card, maybe in my hand. I'm like, okay, we'll see which one they take, and that's going to tell me, do I have it won or not? How can I block this up? And based off of what they take, now that tells me the information of what I need to know for which one to go for. Really clever, really little game. Doesn't take up much space. Nice artwork on it, and just, fast 2-player game with plenty of good kind of thinking. And there's a lot of strategy, or a lot of tactics, and like adjusting your plan on the fly as you start to get more information that you can really play around with. Number 14, we're going to have Railroad Ink Challenge. This is going to be a roll and write game. It might. I'm trying to think. I think it might be my top roll and write game on the list. And Railroad Inc. or Railroad Inc. Challenge, it's basically a game about connecting routes. You're trying to connect train routes and roads to create different pathways to connect the exits around the board, and then try not to leave kind of open connections. Railroad Inc. is a lot of fun. It has a ton of little expansions you can play with. Railroad Inc. Challenge adds in challenge cards, where you can get points for them if you complete them on certain turns, or less points if you're completing them later as you go. And I think I prefer the challenge one because the regular Railroad Inc. is fun, but you're mainly just concerned about connecting up your routes. The challenge gives you more of a specific direction to go for, which I like. So that was 14, I believe. 13, we have Destinies. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm right on my numbers. Yeah. Destinies is going to be an app-assisted, app-driven, really, board game about kind of fantastical situations. This was originally known as Destinies, or Time of Legends Destinies. That Time of Legends piece had to be scrapped from it. But you have a whole bunch of different kind of stories that are told. And for a story-heavy game, Destinies is two things. One, it is competitive, which is fairly rare because everybody is finding out pieces of overall story, trying to complete their objective, and at the end of the game you complete your objective. Now you know, everybody knows kind of what the whole story is, your objective, your destiny. The other thing is, I had it and I lost it. So it was competitive, and the other thing has completely left my mind, but it's just, it's really simple. So you have a few different stats that you are checking against, basically 3 different stats. And how you're doing your check is you're choosing how many dice you want to roll. You always have 2. You have other special dice that you can spend, but you get them back slowly. And you roll those, however many of them you want. You roll the special dice. They're used that time, and then they go away until you can get them back. But you're basically totaling up that number, and you have little markers on your stats. So it goes from like 1 to 12. If you can get it all the way down to 1, you're guaranteed to get that success every single time. But you're going to have 3, maybe 4 on the track. I think it's 3 on the track, maybe 2 in some cases if it's a stat you're not as good at. And so all you're doing is rolling for those checks, and it works so well. It keeps the game going, and it keeps the story going, because so much of what's so great about the game is that story. Then at number 12, we have Sleeping Gods, another one that I showed off here on this channel, played through a full game of that. And Sleeping Gods is an epic kind of ocean, sea adventure in a different world that is completely an open-end sandbox. You are transported to this different world where the gods are sleeping, and your goal is to awaken them, or potentially there are other ways that you can try and win the game. But you don't really know where you're at. You don't know what you're doing. You're somebody who is sailing, I believe, from Hong Kong to New York, and you find yourself in this completely different land. You have no idea what's going on, where you are. So you just kind of wander around. You take quests. You deal with things. And I'm excited for the new edition of it that's coming out, Sleeping Gods, Falling Sky, not Distant Skies. There we go. Pretty sure it's Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. Mainly because it has less characters that you're in charge of. I know that this is a complete For me, it wasn't a major deal, but having fewer characters will be nicer. Just you're tracking less things, but you play as the whole crew on your turn anyways. So you're thinking about it from the side of the whole crew, and most of the time you're just looking at some basic stats to see how you can help bump stuff up. But really clever game system, a ton of fun, great story. Like, to be able to take something that is purely sandbox and it feels like it has an arc. You're doing a whole bunch of little things, but that whole thing together feels like it has an arc, and that is just great. I'm excited for this one. I want to play it with more people. I want to play the new version when that comes in. So that's exciting. And number 11, we have Clank in Space. Clank in Space. And this, I believe, if I remember correctly, this year I did not have Clank, regular Clank, separate from Clank in Space. So put them all in one group. I haven't played Clank Legacy yet. Is it on my shelf? It's on my shelf, and I'm so excited to play it. I just need to find a group and find time to do so. But Clank in Space is a deck building game where you are trying to break into Lord Erraticus's ship, get past his cybersecurity system, open up some doors, go into his kind of vault or personal quarters, grab a treasure, get on out, all without causing too much noise, as Lord Erraticus is very much listening for any clanking that might be happening. And this one I even have a couple of expansions for. I've played with one of them, and I really enjoy it with that expansion as well. I believe it's a Pulsar one, where basically it adds in an additional, it gives you some new tiles, but it adds in an additional card mechanic where, as you're pulling out kind of the neutral cubes, these black cubes that are just Lord Erraticus kind of walking around, because you're throwing your color cubes when you clank into a bag that Lord Erraticus will draw from, and the neutral cubes were basically just neutral. They were nice to get rid of, but now you pull them out of the bag and they start to trigger certain abilities on this other card. The more of them that are on there, the harder it becomes. So it's a completely additional mechanic of trying to balance that and make sure that you're taking care of that so it doesn't get out of control, while still trying to push in and get your treasure. So there we have it. We have 20 through 11 next week. Next Monday, 8:30 Central, so Monday the 28th at 8:30 Central, going to be doing the final 10 games, the 10 through 1 of my top 100 games of all time. Let's quickly run through this list. We have Lords of Hellas, a big fighting area control game from Awakened Realms that is great because it gives you a lot of ways to be able to win. Then we have Spire's End at number 19. This is a story-driven kind of choose-your-own-adventure game where you end up battling a lot, and very dark themes, or kind of story, but great artwork and really just a fun, different feeling experience. At number 18, we have Paper Dungeons. Paper Dungeons is going to be a roll and write dungeon crawl game. Comes with a campaign, take it or leave it, but as a roll and write game, it offers you a whole lot more choices and things to think about than a lot of other roll and writes. At number 17, we have Ice Cool. This is a penguin flicking dexterity game. Just a good game. Whenever I pull it out, always a fun time. And great for all ages. Then at number 16, we have Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. This is a tableau building game where you're trying to be the corporation that helps terraform Mars the best. Really great action selection mechanic in this game. Like I said, it borrows, I believe it's from Something for the Galaxy. One of them, Race for the Galaxy, maybe. And basically the idea is, as I mentioned before, you pick your action, everybody gets to do that action, you just get a bonus for it. The action somebody else picked, they get the bonus for it, but you get to do that as well. So makes the game move along really well. Then at number 15, we have Hanamakoji. This is a 2-player game of trying to win favor of geisha, and you're doing that through 4 simple actions throughout the whole of the game. It's a really simple, clever system that I love. Then we have Railroad Inc. This is Railroad Inc. Challenge on the screen, a route connecting roll and write game where you're connecting roads and train routes, trying to connect all the exits around the board to score as many points as you can, while also not leaving any orphaned or open connections on the routes that you're placing in. Next up, at number 13, we have Destinies. This is a big story game with really light, fast mechanics that is a fun to play through the story and kind of experience the adventure that is happening. Also a competitive game, but not one where it feels, I don't know, bad that it's competitive. Always feels like even when somebody else is finding information that you would have loved to have found and getting an item that you would have loved to have gotten, it's opening up additional information and knowledge for you. Then at number 12, we have Sleeping Gods. Sleeping Gods is another big story game, and this one is much more, well, both of them are sandbox, but Destinies has more specific things that you're trying to do, where Sleeping Gods, you're really trying to explore this fantastical world and complete objectives and stories and things as they come up, and you are really given the option to go anywhere you want. And then finally at number 11, we have Clank in Space, a deck building game, a push your luck into Lord Erraticus' spaceship to find and grab the best treasure that you can and then get out, hopefully before Lord Erraticus knocks you out. And maybe your goal is to get in, get out of treasure as fast as you can, and get back out so that hopefully by the time the other players have finished grabbing their treasures, Erraticus will knock them out, and even though you got not quite as good a treasure, it will work out in the end for you. But there we have it. There we have the 20 through 11. Thank you so much for checking this out. Thank you so much for checking out all the videos and parts of the top 100 list. Hopefully this is a fun time. I have a fun time doing this, going through this. And let me know, out of these 10, which one would you want to play? Do that down in the comment section below. And if you're enjoying these videos, please consider giving us a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, and I guess if you want to know when I go live, you can first off click that notification bell. The video link for, well, the video for the top 10 is up on the page for Malts and Meeples. So you can find it there, click that notification bell, know when I'm going live for the top 10. As for other upcoming streams, maybe this Wednesday we're going to do Spire's End or Spire's End Hildegard. We'll see about that. I might not have time with Thanksgiving coming up, but if not, then probably just getting to Spire's End Hildegard the following week. With that, thank you again so much for watching, and bottoms up.